During the Great Depression, people devalued their currency to compete with each other for the export markets and curtailing their citizens' freedom to hold foreign exchange. As a result of devaluing their currency, the world trade market declined sharply. The United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference, commonly known as the Bretton Woods Conference, was a gathering of 730 delegates from all 44 nations of the Mount Washington Hotel, situated in Bretton Woods in New Hampshire in the United States, to regulate the international monetary and financial order after the conclusion of World War II. This breakdown led to the creation of IMF's plan of the International Monetary Fund, a system of exchange rates and international payments that enables countries and their citizens to buy goods and services from each other. The IMF came into formal existence in December 1935. The founders were Harry Dexter White and John Maynard Keynes. Harry Dexter White was an American economist and senior U.S. Treasury Department official. John Maynard Keynes is a British man who affected and improved the world economy. There are more than 180 member countries involved with the IMF. The first IMF headquarters was located in Washington, D.C. The IMF helps with globalization and economic development. It also warns countries that might face an economic crisis. They also help third world countries develop and help them achieve macroeconomic stability. They also loan money to countries with an economic crisis. IMF gets their money from a number of different countries that are willing to lend IMF money. IMF gives that money to help countries in an economical crisis. Between these countries, IMF can get up to $565 billion to force the dollar to cope with an impairment in the international monetary system. I believe that the IMF is not successful in achieving its goals. I believe that because the IMF lends money to a country, many of those countries' economies become even worse than before. Of the 89 less developed countries that received IMF loans between 1965 and 1995, 48 are no better off economically today than they were before receiving IMF loans. Of those 48 countries, 32 are poorer than they were before receiving IMF loans, and of those 32 countries, 14 have economies that are at least 15% worse than they received their first IMF loans. IMF is also unsuccessful because they force the country to make certain policies. These policies can include balancing budgets, devaluing currency, maintaining tariff levels, or keeping tax rates high. These policies can make undeveloped countries fall even lower. For example, Bolivia between the years 1985 and 1995 took loans from IMF every year except for 3 years. This was supposed to reduce budget deficits, but increased the budget deficits by over 8,000%. Bolivia's external debt was also increased incredibly. In 1970, Bolivia's external debt was about $497 million. In 1993, that debt was increased to over $4 billion. IMF also decreases undeveloped countries' GDP per capita. Here you can see police protesting and destroying police documents because they want a higher wage. Although IMF has some failures, it succeeds in some things. For example, during the Arab Spring, Jordan fell into an economic crisis. This was because of high import prices for oil and food, repeated and extensive periods of interrupted natural gas flow from Egypt due to sabotage of energy infrastructure, a slowdown in tourism, heightened domestic and regional political tensions, and rising sovereign financing costs. This was because of the disruptions of the flow of natural gas and the refugees from Syria's civil war. IMF gave $2 billion in total to Jordan.